So now let's see what he's worried about.
Like I said, AI and robotics will um, bring out what might be termed the age of abundance. Other people have used this word. And that this is my prediction of the age of abundance for everyone.
Again.
I guess there's the dangers would be the artificial general intelligence or digital superintelligence decouples from a collective human
This is boring general worries about AI. Nothing new here. It's old stuff.
brain and spine damage.
So the spirit there is that if we're going to make these AIs that are so vastly intelligent, we ought to be wired directly to them so that we ourselves.
So that's interesting.
The idea behind Neuralink is to try to more tightly couple collective human will to to digital superintelligence, and also along the way solve a lot of brain injuries and spinal injuries and that kind of thing. So even if it doesn't succeed in the greater goal, I think it will succeed in the goal of alleviating brain and spine damage.
So the spirit there is that if we're going to make these AIs that are so vastly intelligent, we ought to be wired directly to them so that we ourselves can have those superpowers more directly.
This is crazy. So he's always leading on. So I don't like his style. I think it's all set up, this whole thing. He's always leading on to the next thing, putting the words into his mouth, what he's expecting now Elon Musk to talk about and in what light. He's talking all of a sudden about, oh, these are superpowers and we will need to be linked to them directly. Setting the stage for the crazy idea putting chips in your brain with wires sticking out of your head. I find this horrible and really dumb talk.
But that doesn't seem to avoid the risk that those superpowers might turn ugly in unintended ways.
No, I think it's a risk. I agree. I'm not saying that
So it sounds all good because they talk about risks.
I'm just saying like maybe one of the things that would be good for ensuring that the future is one that we want is to more tightly couple collective human will to digital intelligence. The issue that we face here is that we're already a cyborg, if you think about it. The computers are an extension.
So now we already cyborgs by typing in a few things into a keyboard and said we have to be linked to the AI to gain superpowers. I think this is completely crazy, and this is what this really dark fourth industrial revolution is really about. And he's trying to sell it, or say both, collude here to sell this vision in a more positive light.
Of ourselves. And when we die, we have like a digital ghost. All of our text messages and social media and emails, and it's quite eerie actually when someone dies but everything online is still there.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, or interesting concept, but this is also around now for a few years.
But you say like what's the limitation? What is it that inhibits human-machine symbiosis? It's the data rate. When you communicate, especially with a phone, you're moving your thumbs very slowly. So you're like moving too.
So this is again prepared. So he gives a few cues, and now he knows what little program to play. So now he's talking about the bit rates when you type things in with your thumbs versus the bandwidth of a computer, which makes him sound really smart.
Little meat sticks.
Right.
at a rate that's maybe 10 bits per second, optimistically 100 bits per second.
So basically just saying humans are dumb and they need the interface with the computer to become faster and to gain superpowers.
Fitbit, Apple Watch, or some kind of smartwatch thing.
So they're comparing this cyborg idea with an Apple Watch.
But with tiny wires, very, very tiny wires. Wires so tiny it's hard to even see them.
So tiny wires in your head you can't even see.
And it's very important to have very tiny wires so that you, when they're implanted, they don't damage the brain.
How far are you from putting these into humans?
Well,
That's a big step. Normally this is completely taboo. Now it's when do you do it? How fast? It's crazy.
we have put in our FDA application to have the aspirationally do the first human implant this year.
The first uses will be for neurological injuries of different kinds.
Yes.
But rolling the clock forward and imagining when people are actually using these for their own enhancement, let's say, and for the enhancement of the world, how clear are you in your mind as to what it will feel like to have one of these inside your head?
Well, I do want to emphasize we're at an early stage, and so it really will be many years before we have anything approximating a high bandwidth neural interface that allows for AI-human symbiosis. And for many years, we will just be solving brain injuries and spinal injuries for probably a decade. And this is not something that will suddenly.
Crazy amount of shoulder shrugs. He has no idea.
One day, we'll have this incredible whole brain interface. It's going to be, like I said, at least a decade of really just solving brain injuries and spinal injuries. And really, I think you can solve a very wide range of brain injuries, including severe depression, morbid obesity, sleep, potentially schizophrenia.
So now he's trying to solve everything again. It sounds like the war on cancer, which got nowhere since the 1970s, when Richard Nixon started this crazy idea. I mean, everyone who knows a bit about these kind of diseases, depression, schizophrenia, obesity, a lot of these things are effectively diseases or illnesses of the soul. These have to do with trauma, with conflicts, especially also transgenerational conflicts. There's a big understanding now, basically already mainstream even, that understanding. And he's sort of thinking, oh, we just fix it by cutting into the brain and putting in a chip. This is crazy.
A lot of things that cause
Right.
great stress to people, restoring memory in older people.
If you can pull that off, that's the app I will sign up for.
Absolutely.
I would please hurry. Actually.
Yeah, no,
It's crazy. He's keep pushing and making it faster and win in humans.
I mean, the emails that we get at Neuralink are
This is remarkable now. This is a huge red flag which casts doubt on the goodness of this interview. He's all of a sudden teared up. So there's a lot of editing going on because there are multiple cameras as well. And you can cut whatever you like from each camera, and you can, of course, cut things out which you don't want to show the audience. And now all of a sudden you see Elon Musk with teary eyes. You see again, the transition is sudden, immediate. So no teary eyes.
older people.
If you can pull that off, that's the app I will.
Yeah, like a lot of things that cause
No teary
great
eyes.
stress to people, restoring memory in older people.
If you can pull
No signs of sadness.
that off, that's the app I will sign up for.
Absolutely.
I would please hurry. Actually.
Yeah, no, I mean, the emails that we get at
And now teary eyes.
Neuralink are heartbreaking. I mean, they'll send us just tragic, where someone was sort of in the prime of life and they had an accident on a.
So teary eyes. So I have a feeling they just blew a bit of smoke into his eyes. I don't know what the techniques are to get someone teared up so quick. This is all just a theater play here. I think it's hard to cry about an email because they're so impersonal.
I mean, if you think of how the brain works today, there are really kind of two layers to the brain. There's the limbic system and the cortex. You've got the kind of animal brain, where it's kind of like the fun part, really. And
That's how most of Twitter operates, by the way.
yeah, I mean, I think like Tim Irvin said this, like we're like somebody stuck a computer on a monkey.
Right.
So we're like if you gave a monkey a computer, that's not cortex, but we still have a lot of monkey instincts.
Right.
So, which we then try to rationalize as no, it's not a monkey instinct. It's something more important than that. But it's often just really a monkey instinct. We're in this. We're just monkeys with a computer stuck in our brain. But even though the cortex is sort of the smart or the intelligent part of the brain, the thinking part of the brain, people are quite. I've not yet met anyone who wants to delete their limbic system or their cortex. They're quite happy having both. Everyone wants.
So they're already talking about deleting one of them. Wow, this is, I don't know, I find this very worrisome. Just the language they use.
Since then, you've gone on to build this monster rocket, Starship, which kind of changes the rules of the game in spectacular ways. Tell us about Starship.
Yes.
So now they're talking about starships, so the big rockets, I suppose, to be used for Mars.
Just as it would be in any other mode of transport.
And the main design is to basically take 100 plus people at a time,
Yeah.
plus a bunch of things that they need to Mars. So first of all, talk about that piece. What is your latest timeline? One, for the first time a starship goes to Mars, presumably without
Yes.
people, but just okay, 100 people at a time. Let's go.
Sure. Well, and just put the costing into perspective. The cost of the
He looks like he's thinking, but he's just recalling a little speech he prepared.
expected cost of Starship putting 100 tons into orbit is significantly less than what it would have cost, or what it did cost to put our tiny Falcon 1 rocket into orbit. Just as the cost of flying a 747 around the world
These are little sales pitches he prepared.
is less than the cost of a small airplane. A small airplane that was thrown away. So it's really pretty mind-boggling that the giant thing costs way less than the small thing. So it doesn't use
So he basically always reinvents the wheel. He's so remarkable and genius.
sort of exotic propellants or things that are difficult to obtain on Mars. It uses methane as fuel, and it's primarily oxygen. It's sort of roughly 78% oxygen by weight. And Mars has a CO2 atmosphere and has water ice, which is CO2 plus H2O. So you can
So now he's proving with his little prepared speech that he knows really chemistry.
a method of transport to anywhere in the solar system. Because the point at which you have a propellant depot on Mars, you can then travel to the asteroid belt and to the moons of Jupiter and then to Saturn and ultimately anywhere in the solar system.
And now he's talking about our solar system. He's also knowledgeable about that. He has these little prepared blips of information which make him sound really smart.
What's your latest advice on the timeline for that?
It's looking promising for us to have an orbital launch attempt in a few months. So we're actually we'll be integrating the engines into the booster for the first orbital flight starting in about a week or two. And the launch complex itself is ready to go. So assuming we get regulatory approval, I think we could have an orbital launch attempt within a few months.
And about
This is crazy. I don't think that's how it works. I don't think he can be so vague about it. You would have to train astronauts, they have to be familiarized with the ship. This takes years, at least in the past. So he's extremely vague about something super important and fundamental.
Excitement is guaranteed. Success is not guaranteed, but excitement certainly is.
But the last I saw on your timeline, you've slightly put back the expected date to put the first human on Mars till 2029, I want to say.
He's leading him on again. He's feeding him a bit of information so Elon Musk can recap of what he prepared. 2029, this is in 7 years. And currently there's not even a rocket flying. This is impossible, and even making predictions like that.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. I mean, we have built a production system for Starship, so we're making a lot of
So just by saying production systems makes him sound really smart.
ships and boosters. And,
How many are you planning to make, actually?
well, we're currently expecting to make a booster and a ship roughly initially roughly every couple months, and hopefully by the end of this year, one every month. So
It's a massive production, and he doesn't even know about it when this will happen. This is very unusual for some high-end manager or CEO of a company. It's not like a little startup, what he's talking about, or a little research group at university where you can do so blue sky research and tinker away. This is about funds and resources and hiring people and getting the right staff and training people. This is impossible to be so vague.
it's giant rockets, but a lot of them. Just talking in terms of rough orders of magnitude, in order to create a self-sustaining city on Mars, I think
So now he's going into his little prepared speech.
we'll need something on the order of 1,000 ships. And we just need a Helen of Sparta, I guess, on Mars.
This is
Crazy.
not in most people's heads, Elon.
The planet that launched 1,000 ships.
That's nice. But this is not in most people's heads. This picture that you have in your mind, so there's basically a 2-year window. You can only really fly to Mars conveniently every 2 years.
That's because Mars and Earth on their orbits are the closest. Of course, if you would go at the wrong time, you would travel across the solar system because Mars is on the other side of the sun.
Yes.
You are picturing that during the 2030s, every couple of years, something like 1,000 starships take off, each containing 100 or more people.
Yes.
I mean, that picture is
It's complete crazy. Making statements like that without even having tested the new Starship and going into orbit around the Earth is really something.
God.
I think that's powerful, and I think a lot of people will be inspired by that vision. And the reason you need the million people is because there has to be enough people there to do everything that you need to survive.
Really, the critical threshold is if the ships from Earth stop coming for any reason.
Right.
Does the Mars city die out or not?
This is again a prepared speech. It makes him sound really smart. He knows the milestones and they're very easy to communicate. So it gives the people who listen to this, oh, we're living in fantastic times. It's like in a movie. The future is now.
Should someone be trying to lead those discussions to figure out what it means for this to be the people of Mars' city?
Well, I think ultimately this will be up to the people of Mars to decide how they want to rethink society. Yeah, there's certainly risk there, and hopefully the people of Mars will be more enlightened and will not fight amongst each other too much.
Positive words, enlightened.
I mean, I have some recommendations, but which people of Mars may choose to listen to or not. I mean, I would advocate for more of a direct democracy, not a representative democracy, and laws that are short enough for people to understand, and where it is harder to.
Prepared speech again about democracy and society on Mars. He's saying all the right things, or direct democracy. Sure, I mean, that's what we would need now at this moment, and everything goes to hell, and he's supporting the current scenario.
To create laws than to get rid of them.
But anyway, he's always painting the brighter future. Even everything is shit now. In the future on Mars, everything will be better.
Coming back a bit nearer term, I'd love you to just talk a bit about some of the other possibility space that Starship seems to have created.
Yeah.
So given, surely there is a growing argument that you should actually put all these things together into one company and just.
So this is what he's pushing here, or what he's trying to desensitize the audience for. That there will be some mega corporation which combines all the AI and spaceships and robots and self-driving cars into this future conglomerate. This sounds very dystopian.
So, I mean, as a public company, you're just constantly sued. It does occupy like a fair bit of, time and effort to deal with these things.
Right, but you would still only have one public company. It would be bigger and have more things going on. But instead of being on 4 boards, you'd be on 1.
I'm actually not even on the Neuralink or Boring Company boards.
Twitching his shoulders. So he's not even on any board. So what is he really?
Yeah, and I don't really attend the SpaceX board meetings. We only have 2 a year, and I just stop by and chat for an hour. So
So what is going on here?
The board overhead for a public company is much higher.
Right. I think some investors probably worry about how your time is being split, and they might be excited by that. That's anyway. I just woke up the other day thinking just there are so many ways in which these things connect, and just the notion, the simplicity of that mission of building a future that is worth getting excited about might appeal to an awful lot of people.
That's what it's all about, selling some fourth industrial revolution product.
Elon, you are reported by Forbes and everyone else as now the world's richest person. I mean, your net worth on any given day is rising or falling by
Yeah.
several $billion. How insane, how insane is that?
bonkers, yeah.
I mean, how do you handle that psychologically? There aren't many people in the world who have to even think about that.
I actually don't think about that too much, but the thing that
So very humbled, very modest, so makes him very likable.
is actually more difficult, and that does make sleeping difficult, is that every good hour or even
So he's now got a keyword, and now he's going into his prepared speech, a little sales pitch.
minute of thinking about Tesla and SpaceX has such a big effect on the company that I really try to work as much as possible, to the
He's working hard, he's worth his money.
edge of sanity, basically, because Tesla's getting to the point where probably will get to the point later this year where every high quality minute of thinking is $1 million to impact on Tesla.
So he has little sales pitches which go down very well, which make him sound really interesting.
So, which is insane. I mean, the basic, if Tesla's doing,
I don't like this guy. He's drooling over this fourth industrial revolution stuff. And he's not really asking critical questions. He's just giving a little bit cues for Elon Musk to talk about his little sales pitches.
of a sort of $2 billion a week, let's say, in revenues, sort of $300 million a day, 7 days a week. It's
If you can change that by 5% in an hour's brainstorm, those would
Yeah.
be valuable. That's a pretty valuable hour.
I mean, there are many instances where a half-hour meeting, I was able to improve the financial outcome of the company by $100 million in a half-hour meeting.
There are many other people out there.
That's such nonsense. Wow. Not every chat immediately leads to changes in company policy or productivity or output. It's just not how reality works.
There who can't stand this world of billionaires. Like they are hugely offended by the notion that an individual can have the same wealth as say, a billion or more of the world's poorest people.
If they examine I think there's some axiomatic flaws that are leading to them to that conclusion.
It looks like he's thinking, but he's actually just recalling his little sales pitch.
If for sure, it would be very problematic if I was consuming, billions of dollars a year in personal consumption. But that is not the case. In fact, I don't even own a home right now. I'm literally staying at friends' places. If I travel to the Bay Area, where most of Tesla engineering is, I stay I basically rotate through friends' spare bedrooms.
This is such nonsense. Where does he put his suits even? You need a huge walk-in closet for his wardrobe alone. That sounds impossible. He has children as well. You need safe spaces to think, to have family life. You have also confidential company information. You can't just sort of sit in someone else's bedroom and have paperwork spread out all over the bed or the floor. It doesn't work like that. You need quiet spaces to recharge, to thinking. To me, it's a sales pitch to make him sound likable. It sounds a bit like you will own nothing, but you will be happy. And he's sort of the living example of that. It's just insulting to even hear this in an interview.
I don't have a yacht. I really don't take vacations. So
he's a great guy. That's for sure.
it's not as though there's that my personal consumption is high. The one exception is a plane. But if I don't use the plane, then I have less hours to work. So
And I personally think you have shown that you are mostly driven by really quite a deep sense of moral purpose. Like you've tried your attempts to solve the climate problem have been as powerful as.
So he's selling him as a philanthropist now, as a morally good person, so we can trust Elon Musk when he talks about the fourth industrial revolution and putting chips in people's heads.
You're a father now of seven kids, and
well, I'm trying to set a good example because the birth rate on Earth is so low that we're facing civilizational collapse unless the birth rate returns to a sustainable level.
So he's painting himself as one of the good guys, going against the narrative of Bill Gates, wants the world population to decline, and he's talking exactly the opposite. So basically, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So this is how he paints himself.
Yeah, you talked about depopulation is a big problem, and we
Yes.
people don't understand.
Population
how difficult that is.
collapse is one of the biggest threats to the future of human civilization, and that is what's going on right now.
What drives you on a day-to-day basis to do what you do?
I guess I really want to make sure that there is a good future for humanity, and that we're on a path to understanding the nature of the universe, the meaning of life, why are we here, how do we get here.
It all sounds very good, but it's all just a sales pitch. He wants to sound enlightened and leading the alternative crowd into the new future. But it's also just the fourth industrial revolution. So in summary, there are a lot of underlying assumptions in this interview. For instance, that there's a climate catastrophe, that AI and the brain computer interface and self-driving cars and so on in Mission to Mars is all great. There are risks, but it's certainly worth it. That's the assumption. As a result, the future is great and the age of abundance is ushered in, which is very spiritual stuff. So he paints a very bright future. On the other hand, there are a lot of red flags in this video. There's extreme vague language, even though he is dealing with a lot of capital and resources and funding. There's a lot of shoulder shrugs, uncertainty, which is very, very unusual. Another really big red flag was that his eyes all of a sudden teared up. I think that's very unrealistic because emails are very impersonal and he doesn't even know these. And it appears very fake. No one has time to run multiple companies, that he doesn't own a home. He's working around the clock. He has 7 kids. He's super smart. It's all a fairy tale. Based on this interview, it is possible that he's just a frontman, a puppet to sell the fourth industrial revolution. And that in fact, all his companies are just huge governmental projects. But if the public would know what it really is, some huge corporation, the public would be afraid. And he's just selling it. So they put him at the front, a lone genius, a Tony Stark-like figure. Coming back to the original question, is he a good guy? I think he's supposed to look like the good guy, but currently I don't see any evidence. I think I finish here. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm really excited to read your comments about Elon Musk, what you think about him, about this interview, and about him in more general terms. And yeah, thank you again, and talk to you next time. Bye.